Hello and welcome to the Workouts for Older Men podcast. I am Skip LaCour. I'm so glad you're joining me here today. Hey, reach out if you have any questions. You can go to my skiplacour.com website. Make sure you're on my email list. Make sure you're on all of my social media platforms. Got a questionnaire you can fill out. I'll reach out to you. All right, you can call me or text me 925-352-4366 if you have a question. And many of the men, you're busy, you're productive. Many of the men who are drawn to my website, my message, my brand, my style of delivery for these workouts and eating strategies for older men. They're not men who just hang out on the internet all day. They certainly wouldn't want to admit that. Many of the time, the men who get the most out of what I teach reach out to me for one-on-one coaching. They are invisible on the internet. They have burner accounts. So if that's you and you don't want to post your questions, I get it. You're like most of the men who gravitate to my messaging. All right, so reach out, text me. Text me. That's a great way I can deal with you privately, and so you don't have to be on the internet. Hey, in this podcast, I want to talk about precision training, all right? Unlocking volume's secret for older men. And by what I mean in that, training volume. Okay, what do I mean by training volume, right? I'm not going to assume that you know all these terms that hardcore lifters who are 25, 30, who live on the internet, they just throw around and assume you know it. You might kind of know it, but if you know it exactly, it's going to help you get to the next level and take the next step. So what do I mean by volume? It's collectively how much work you do, exercise you do, sets, reps, volume, all right, the total volume, the total amount of the weight you're pushing on that particular body part, and then collectively over the whole body, volume of training. So it's how many sets you do, how many sets are in, how many reps are in those sets, how many exercises you do of those sets and how many reps, how many different exercises you do every single workout, right? How long are your workouts, all right? How many times do you work out that particular body part? Once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, or more, depending on if it's a full body workout or you break out the body parts. What's the best training split, right? So all that accumulates over volume, how much you work the muscle, right? You've heard me say it many times, maybe you hear it from all the fitness influencers, that more isn't necessarily better. It would be great if everything worked that way in life. Hard work, putting in your time, going through the trial and error, the willingness to do more and do it for a long period of time. I mean, that attitude is gonna get you closer. And if you keep on, you're gonna figure it out. All right? But more isn't necessarily better, right? It's effectiveness and efficiency with what you do. That is the right amount of volume. And so let me tell you, it's all based on intensity. So I talked about volume, what that means. What does that mean by intensity? Training hard? Well, everybody thinks they train hard, right? Everybody thinks they train hard. But let me ask you a question. If I went back to maybe, it doesn't matter if you started when you were a lot younger or you're in your 50s and you're starting now, right? When you first started the first couple months, did you train hard? Did you believe you train hard? Subjectively, yeah, you probably did. Probably train harder than you ever thought imaginable, right? You built up to that. But let me ask you a question. Now that it's 6 months later or a year later, did you find ways to train even harder, right? You opened up your mind. You push yourself. You set by set, workout by workout, you built confidence. You push yourself a little harder. And although you were training hard at the beginning, it's nothing compared to now, right? The way you train now, that level of intensity, training hard, pushing yourself. Right? See, that's the missing factor when you're looking for the right training volume. What's the right workout for you? You model someone's training routine and you'll eyeball it and say that's enough for you, or it's not enough for you. A lot of men look at my workouts and they say it's not enough for them just by sight. right? All the scientific studies about the proper amount of volume, how many sets builds muscle. I mean, it's all guessing the amount of intensity that a person does, and maybe they're trying to guess or average out or whatever. But it's only you. It's only your intensity, right? If you're taking this seriously, right? I mean, your mindset, who you are, listening to a podcast like this. If I took 100 men, my guess would be your mental fortitude, your discipline. Right? I know this isn't true of everybody, but you'd probably be in the top 20% easy. So 100 men, you're mentally tougher than 80 of them out of the 100. Well, if I give you a set of weights and I give you an exercise, somehow, some way, you're going to be able to push one more rep, 5 more pounds. You're going to, just put a little bit more into the volume I give you, and it's not going to be the same routine, and it throws off all these scientific studies, right? The factor is when you put that set of dumbbells down, you re-rack the weights, the barbell, the machine weights, whatever it is. Did you really push it to, close to failure without hurting yourself, right? How close because that makes all the difference. If well, I'm gonna stop a little short. I'm not gonna go nuts and maybe hurt myself. Okay, I get it, right? But what is it? Are you going 90%? Is that, do you think, of what you can do? The weight, the reps, pushing it out, is it 90%? Or is it 50%? Right? There's a big difference. You can do the same amount of reps, pick a weight. Someone, really could do a few more, 2, 3, 4 more reps if they really had the right mindset, if they understood what I'm talking about. You stack that over a workout, you stack that over a week, you stack it over, the volume over time. That's what makes, the volume where you can't go by somebody's routine, all right, or these scientific facts, because the unknown factor, the X factor, is what that person does. Look, I pushed myself. I pushed myself to be a 6-time national champion bodybuilder. But I'll tell you what, part of my belief system that I can push this hard and lift this weight, people see me posting my workouts right now, at 61 years old, part of it's just part of my belief, because I pushed myself to become a champion, and I expanded my mind of what was possible and doing it safely. So where I am right now, it's so far below, what I used to do. This is nothing. Guys see me right now, 61, you're going to get hurt. It's going to snap, right? Well, I hope it doesn't. It hasn't in 34 years, right? You're probably strong. You probably squeeze out that one more rep more than you think. You got to be on that continual journey, progressive overload. 5 more pounds, 1 more rep, better form, feeling, execution. It's not every set of every single workout. It may be, collectively 3 more reps over the same workout over last week, spread over all the exercise and all the sets for that body part. Right, so that's the X factor. But here, let me give you some practical advice on how to do this, right, for you to figure it out, because that X factor is you. Is to start off with what you can do, not when you're the most ambitious, right? It's the beginning of the year, or whatever it is, and you have this. You're sick and tired of looking the way you do, or whatever. Why? Maybe you're newly single. I don't know what it is. What give this, big burst of motivation? I don't know what it is for you, right? And so you're willing to go to the gym. Maybe your kids just moved out of the house. I don't know what it is. You got this open time, and you got to do something with it, so you don't want to work out. So even though you could go to the gym 6 days a week, 2 hours, train the body part 2-3 times a week, right? And I'm telling you, there's a 30-year-old fitness influencer that wants to build all this muscle. He lives on the net. Fitness is everything. Building muscle is everything. And he'll say, yeah, that's what I do. All right? If you can do that, then fine. Because whatever volume you do, believe it or not, you'll crank it up or lower it to pace yourself through whatever ambitious schedule you have. So if it's 2 hours, training the body part 2 and 3 times a week, or full body every single day for 6 days, 2 hours, whatever it is, if it's all that volume, you can get through it. You can train hard. But you're running a middle distance race, if not a marathon, rather than a sprint. You may not know it, and if it works for you, fine. If you can budget in that time, fine. All right? Either way is going to work. But if you can, you got to say, look, I got to get this workout, and it's really important to me, but I only have 4 days to do it, 45 minutes. If I'm lucky, what can I do? Pick the workout on the internet and come to me and get a workout that you can do not only now when you're highly motivated, but when you're at your busiest time and you can still work. And what's the habit? What's a sustainable habit with your lifestyle? And then you got to learn how to squeeze the power into the time frame that you set. Not just add more and more sets and volume and training days. And that's because the high volume guy says that, and he says supposedly have the science to back it up. You got to just keep on pushing yourself, constantly challenging, what it's supposed to feel like at every set. Even if you have a workout that's, 4 days a week, 45 minutes, you never thought you could do it. You see these Skip LaCour workouts that are so short, take that leap of faith, push every set. You'll find out that even though it's counterintuitive, it may not seem to work, especially, how much muscle we're going to build. And for a lot of men, if they get leaner, you'll hear me say this all the time, that size of your physical body, how it feels at that shirt, a lot of that is fat. You would look amazing, a smaller person, but lean. And it's not because you lost muscle. All right. How much muscle are you going to really build? And is that why you're not satisfied in the mirror? Because you don't have enough muscle? Is that it? All right. Or is it too much body fat? Giving you the appearance of looking smaller, even though you feel at that shirt. All right. So how much are you going to gain even with all that volume? And if it's not sustainable, it doesn't matter. So I'm telling you, it's just so important when you might see a study. Well, I feel I can't really do it for a long period of time. And I'm not getting started because I need to work out 5 days a week for 2 hours or 6 days a week for whatever. That feels right to you. It seems right. It seems like more is better. And then, the fitness experts, they all have all of this volume and these intricate workouts, and it just matches what you think. And I'll tell you, a lot of those are built because they know that's what you think, rather than trying to explain this to you that you can get more. Even though you're training hard, you can crank up the intensity and do it safely. Even though you're older, you can do it. And when you do it, you'll get more done in less time. And if you're doing it in less time, you're not just racing around with all those sets, those exercises, the reps, and the training of the body part frequency. No, it's just get more out of what you're doing. All right. I know there's just a lot of confusion. What's the best routine? I know guys are settling a routine that seems right, but you're the it factor, what it feels like at the end. And like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, pushing myself, but, I've sold, thousands of VHS tapes. I've sold thousands of DVDs, right? And I would get in great contests, gearing down for a contest, and I would turn on the cameras way back in the day, right, when it wasn't so easy. Right? I knew, especially after I, sold the first VHS tape, and I was surprised. I didn't know. It was a whole new world. And then I'd get letters and feedback from all over the world, right? So when I went to shoot the second one, I could suck it up. I could dig deep, get that one more rep, ask myself to lift 5 more pounds, 20 more pounds with the cameras going, because I knew the payoff. I knew this was going to be seen years down the road from men all over the world who'll pay me good money. I'm highly motivated. And I all those years, I felt that I could do more. I pushed myself. I didn't just say, I could do more. It's not impossible, to do more. I'm drug-free, this and that. No, I just pushed myself. And I find that today, like I was saying that, I've been managing a lot of things with my business, my family, my kids, and sports. And I admitted, I'll raise my hand. The intensity has dropped. I watch my eating. I look great. But, I'm on a roll now where, I just want to just go off the charts, right? And so my training is really cranking up. And now I'm posting my workouts. boom, all of a sudden, my lifts, they're going back because I'm demanding it. I'm demanding that intensity. And that's what makes training work, not the magic amount of sets and reps I can apply to everybody. Even myself, I can contrast against myself. I'll get more out of it or less out of it, right? So training volume, what's too little and what's too much for older men. And here's the thing about it. Unless your joints are aching, never, like if you feel great but you've been doing higher volume, but you don't have the body that you want, it's not changing as fast as you want, you're not building as much muscle. One thing I can pretty much assure you, it's not because you are training too much volume. That's not it. It isn't like you're doing all this extra work and it's actually pushing you backwards. Like I said, you do the extra work that's not necessarily needed, right? Not enough volume. Too much volume. You'll without knowing it, you'll lighten up. You won't ask for the 5 more pounds and 1 or 2 more reps because you'll pace yourself. You'll keep it in reserve because you got to have this longer workout with more frequency, with more volume, whether you realize that or not. You got to box yourself in. You got to be willing to experiment. And that's how you'll see, because that X factor is you, and you got to block yourself into the conditions to know this X factor I'm talking about, or it's just going to be theory. It's just going to be theory. And so, you can find what the young guy says with the scientific studies about the right amount of volume, and all that does is match, not your experience. You certainly don't have enough years to know that for sure. You didn't compare and contrast. That's just your theory that's enough. All right, but notice how you never do that with some short workout with, 9 sets for the body part in 1 week. You never guess that's the right amount, right? All right, so training volume, precision training, unlocking volume secret for older men. That secret is intensity, and it only applies to you, and it's a journey. You gotta test yourself to find out. Nobody can do that for you. You can't get it from a generic training routine. So training volume, what's too little and what's too much for older men. For you, not older men, for you. And I hope that brings a little bit more clarity. Just say, after every set, did I push myself? Did I have more in you? Most of the time you will realize that you have more in you. And just that awareness, you're on the way to more intensity, getting more done in less time, that training volume, and finding out what's right for you. So that's going to do it for this Workouts for Older Men podcast episode. Thank you so much for joining me. Leave your comments in the comment section. Send me an email at skip@skiplacour.com if you have any questions, if you want any topics. Tell me how you're loving these podcasts. I'm getting some feedback on my YouTube channel. I put this in video format there. And this podcast is on all of the podcast formats. All right. So thank you so much for joining. Reach out for one-on-one coaching. Reach out if you have any questions. If you have any questions about coaching, you don't even need to make the decision. I'll talk to you about it, see if it's a good fit for you with one of the many plans I have. All right, let's take on the day with a sense of urgency. We have to when we're a little bit older. We've got more time behind us than we do in front of us. Have a great day.